Heidi Cruz crew, good morning. It's a wonderful morning to go find the rest of the undecided voters. And who's the next president of the United States? Ted Cruz, got it!
Many campaigns spend a lot of money, and so one of the leadership members thought of buying a dorm, and I think we're down to a fraction of the hotel cost per night. Oh, this is fantastic. It also creates a real community.
We saw each other in Cisco.
Oh, yes. I knew that we were going to win this election because to have business leaders, people of stature like every single one of you in this room giving up your lives, leaving your families, putting your careers on hold, that's the sacrifice that this nation requires for us to be active in these elections. I've been married 14 and a half years, and the next president of the United States is my running mate, Ted Cruz.
It's been said, and you've heard no doubt over and over again, that you're a big asset to this campaign. What would you say is your biggest contribution?
I know there are a lot of people not comfortable raising money, and it's been part of my profession, and so that was an early thing that I could just hit the phone. And we've raised over $50 million to date.
She goes on to a career in business, excelling and rising to the highest pinnacles. And then Heidi becomes my wife and my very best friend in the world.
So you guys met in politics. How did the relationship start?
Well, I was in business school at the time in Boston, and a really good friend of mine and mentor had suggested that I spend our Christmas break in business school working for the Bush campaign. And when I first met him, I found Ted very compelling. He is a warm person, he's friendly, he is someone who's clearly smart and has an incredibly sharp mind. Very articulate, but he's also a guy that likes to have fun.
Tell me about the first date.
Just had a really, really in-depth, long conversation. Ted has a way of getting to know people that's very deep and personal. He wanted to know all about my family, our background, what my interests and goals were. His father came here from Cuba as a freedom fighter. His mother was the first in her family to go to college. We realized that we had been raised with a lot of the same principles, but in different states, and our parents have different backgrounds.
She starts a small business when she's in grade school, baking bread. She calls it Heidi's Bakery.
At 6 years old, you're making $150 a week baking bread with your brother. Talk to me about that.
My parents had a small farm on the Central Coast, and at the time, the Central Coast was very rural. My brother came to me and he said, "Hey, I think we should make some money." So when we went to my dad, he said, "Well, you know, you should start a business. If you want to make money, that's what people do in this country. They start a business." And so my mom's an incredible cook, and they had their own garden, and she suggested that maybe we make bread. My brother and I made all the batches when the fall was our busy season, and we would generally ride our Yamaha 80 motorcycle together to deliver, and it just taught us a lot.
After I commented about New York values, my friends in the media, seems like they lit their hair on fire. They were very confused. Well, what are these New York values of which you speak? Now, I would say in the rest of America, people know exactly what that means.
Your husband talked a lot about New York values, and clearly he doesn't necessarily share those values, but you've said in the past that you guys share a lot of the same values. Like what?
We share the values of raising our kids to believe in two things firmly. One, freedom of religion. And the God that we're teaching them about is a God that created this world, that gave individuals freedom of choice, that allows us the opportunity to live a good life for others, but also allows us the opportunity to make mistakes, and that there's forgiveness. But there's also consequence. And we believe in a God and a country of law and order.
Because he's really a nasty person. People don't like him.
But would you prefer a Cruz nomination over a Trump?
Again, it's like being shot or poisoned. What does it really matter?
People do say some nasty things out there about your husband. What do you say to your girls? And as a wife, what's your coping mechanism?
Well, the great thing for our family is it really doesn't bother Ted. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, he is unflappable. These personal attacks, Ted doesn't take personally. And so it's been easier for us because he's not rattled.
I like Donald Trump. I respect Donald Trump. If he or anyone else wants to engage in a battle of insults, he's welcome to do so. I don't intend to respond in kind. I'm going to stay focused on issues and substance and how we turn this country around.
Do you think working at Goldman is at all a political liability for your husband running for president?
You know, I've been asked if Ted is anti-Wall Street, and Ted is not anti-Wall Street. He's not anti any business. He is against government subsidies for any industries, and he's said that over and over.
In 2005, there was a report that a police officer found you and you'd been suffering from a bit of depression. How were you able to get through that, and what advice would you give people who are still suffering?
We all go through different chapters in our lives, and sometimes transitions in between chapters are the toughest time. I looked at the reasons that I'd made the decisions in my life that I had. I found them to be solid decisions, and my fear and concern was I wasn't sure what I was going to do in the next chapter. And when I asked that question to those that I trust spiritually, it became very clear to me that God can use us in so many different ways. I had the gift of a wonderful husband. People have asked me how Ted was during that time, and a quality that I want Americans to know about Ted was one that was heavily demonstrated during that time of a great friend, a great listener, and a man of great patience. And Ted has all those qualities, and I always know that he would support me, and it's a big reason of why I support him.
But let's just fast forward and project for a moment, and you become First Lady. What kinds of issues would you want to tackle?
Something that's near and dear to my heart is the concept of entrepreneurship, and I just want other kids to have the opportunity to see the value that they can add in many different ways, whether it be a hobby, a talent, and it's all around the concept of entrepreneurship.